Straight up. Remember when snagging a quarter-acre block was just the done thing? It was the ultimate Aussie rite of passage. You put in the hours, you played by the rules, and you got a set of keys. Simple. Here is the kicker. That version of Australia is dead and buried. Today, renting households are bleeding a record 33.4% of their pre-tax income straight into a landlord's pocket. Think about that for a second, because that is officially rental stress territory, and you don't even own the bloody letterbox. Back in 2006, a single decent wage could actually sort your housing. You weren't living in a mansion, but you weren't eating dirt either. Fast forward to now, and it's a total stitch-up. Domain's 2026 report just dropped the bomb. You now need a household income of over $112,667 a year just to rent a typical house across the capital cities without going completely skint. That required income has surged 51% since 2019. While our paychecks have been stuck in the mud, the cost of a roof has bolted like a startled roo. We aren't just looking at a housing crunch anymore, we're looking at the end of the fair go. And another thing, the maths behind this property market is completely buggered. For years, we've been told by the suits in Canberra that things would level out. Well, they didn't level out. The market took off like a rocket while we were left standing on the launch pad. Let's pull the curtain back on the actual numbers, because the data doesn't lie, even if the politicians do. According to the CoreLogic 2026 rental update, rents across this wide brown land have shot up by 43.9% over the last 5 years. Now, have a guess what happened to wages in that same window. They crawled up by a measly 17.5%. You don't need to be a data analyst to see the scam there. You are literally falling behind every single time the clock strikes midnight on a Sunday. Why is this happening? It's not rocket science. We stopped building enough bloody houses back in the 2010s, then wondered why everyone was fighting over a damp unit in the suburbs. We've got more people coming in, fewer slabs being poured, and a tax system that treats housing like a casino instead of a basic human right. The national median home price jumped another 9.4% in the last 12 months alone. That's an extra $78,000 and $700 added to the price tag of a standard home in just 1 year. Think about that. Could you save nearly $80,000 in a year after paying for your groceries at Coles and Woolies and keeping the lights on? Not a chance. Look, it's not just the big picture numbers that hurt either. It's the slow bleed every single day. You feel it when you walk out of the supermarket, $50 lighter for a bag that's half empty. But housing, that is the real robbery. Look back 20 years. In the early 2000s, renting was just a quick stepping stone. You'd put up with a dodgy flatmate or a leaking tap for a couple of years, save your pennies, and then you'd buy. Today, it's a life sentence for a huge chunk of the population. The latest data shows that to rent comfortably in Sydney right now, you need to be pulling in over $135,000 a year. Even in Hobart, you're looking at needing north of $100,000 just to keep the lights on and the landlord happy. And if you think moving out west is the answer, think again. Western Australia has seen rents spike by 66% in just 5 years. Imagine your landlord telling you your rent is going up by 2/3, but your pay is staying exactly where it is. It's a bloodbath. Here is the most jarring part though. We used to think of renters as uni students, but the latest stats tell a different story. Close to 300,000 Aussie renters are now aged between 35 and 44. These aren't kids. These are families with 2 cars in the driveway and kids in school who are absolutely terrified of that next lease renewal email hitting their inbox. If you head over to Reddit or the forums, it's like a war zone. You've got people with good jobs, nurses, teachers, tradies, talking about rental bidding wars where they have to offer an extra $50 or $100 a week just to get a look in. Since when did having a roof over your head become an auction? Even the grey nomads are getting caught out, selling the family home for the big lap, only to find they'd been completely priced out of the market by the time they get back. They're coming home to a country they don't recognise anymore. So, what is the actual play? Waiting for a housing crash is a mug's game, and while complaining at a barbecue is a national pastime, it won't pay a rent bill in 2030. We are seeing two very different survival paths being taken in this market. For those still fighting to get in, the strategy of rent vesting is gaining ground, renting where you want to live, while using 80 grand as a foot in the door for a modest regional hub. But even that is a brutal squeeze once you factor in stamp duty, legal fees, and lenders' mortgage insurance. It is a calculated double cash flow trap, paying record rents in the city while often topping up a regional mortgage out of pocket, because the rent coming in doesn't cover the high interest rates. Then there is the growing crowd of renters in their 50s and 60s facing a total crisis. With typical city rents now blowing past $3,000 a month, the old pension myths are dead. The talk now is about needing a nest egg of $2 million just to rent comfortably in retirement. Even those who own the dirt are making hard calls to protect their future. We're seeing homeowners downsizing early, selling the 4-bedroom family home now to bank the cash and move somewhere cheaper, simply to fund a life that costs a limb every fortnight before they're too old to move. The final word? There is no magic bullet coming from Canberra. Neither side of politics is likely to tank prices when they, and a huge chunk of their voters, are sitting on multiple investment properties. The uncomfortable truth is we've become a nation divided by a title deed. That fair go Australia is in the rearview mirror, and we are now a two-tiered nation, those who own the dirt and those who pay through the nose to stand on it. If you are 50 or 60 and still renting, you aren't a failure. The ladder was simply pulled up and locked away by a system that prioritises capital gains over a roof for its citizens. But without change, we are looking at a retirement crisis that makes today's cost of living crunch look like a quiet Sunday session at the pub. What is your situation? Drop a comment with your rent hike numbers. Let's get the real data out there, because the official stats are barely scratching the surface of the struggle. I'll see you in the comments.